Hello, so I thought in honor of Taylor Swift's new album coming out, I would do a Taylor themed little video. A little bit about my journey with Taylor Swift. I guess if you're interested, I'm somewhat of a private Taylor Swift fan. I'm a private Taylor Swift listener. Not that I'm like ashamed to listen to her music or anything like that, but I have been listening to her since I was about 14, 15. Whenever our song came out, that was the first song I heard by her. The Taylor Swift fandom wasn't like it is now. When I was in high school, it was a lot more polarizing, I guess. And I guess she's been up and down in terms of whether the public loves her or not, and I'm so used to that. And so when I was growing up listening to her, I didn't have a lot of people to talk to about her, and a lot of the people that I did try to talk to about her, they would either like make fun of me, make fun of her, you know, so she wasn't very popular when I was growing up. And so I think I've been burnt a couple of times when I would mention her to people, where they would kind of, I don't know, they have this like condescending, pretentious kind of view of her and of me listening to her. And so ever since then I've been sort of like just privately listening to her. Like I said, I'm not ashamed of, you know, liking her at all. My favorite album, if you're curious, is Red, but I do have a deep connection with Speak Now, just because I think Speak Now came out around 2010, I want to say, and 2010 was you know, I was 17, I was finishing high school, and I remember, like, I don't know why, but that album just connected with me on like a deep level, to the point where I listened to Taylor's version of Speak Now and I just started crying. I don't know why. I didn't realize that album had like a significant memory attached to it for me. But yeah, anyway, I thought I would do a little bit of a book recommendation, because whenever I read a book, I do try to see if it fits with any of Taylor Swift's songs, and I've been keeping up a list of songs, but I thought I would do them in albums, and I wanted to start with Evermore because it's the one that I had a lot of books written down for. So anyway, let's just get started. The first song is Willow. So if you're into Willow, I recommend the book From Luke Off with Love by Mariana Zapata, because the narrator in Willow talks about having plans and talks about a person coming into their life and like ruining their plans, and I felt like that fit with Ivan and Jasmine's characters, because Jasmine is such a planned out, you know, kind of character who's like, I am like, my goal is this and I'm going after it, and then Ivan comes along and kind of changes her ways. I did do a little bit of a book review on this, so if you're interested in my thoughts, I will leave the link to it down below. I think I read this book for a second chance reading challenge that I did. But yeah, I took that part of the song and kind of linked it with the main character of From Luke Off with Love. The second track is Champagne Problems. Now this is the book that I will repeat for multiple tracks, and that book is Out of Love by Hazel Hayes. This book, first of all, the idea of Champagne Problems, the song, is about someone who not necessarily regrets a relationship, but someone who understands that they can no longer stay in a particular relationship, and they have a level of compassion and understanding for the other person, and they take accountability for the role that they played in the other person's heartbreak, if that makes sense. So I felt like this was the perfect book for that, because this starts off with a breakup, and then each chapter forward you go backwards into seeing what really went down in their relationship. And I think my favorite part about this book is you don't just see one side of the story. Because you're going backwards, you're seeing everything. You're seeing the good and the bad. You don't just see Angel being treated badly by Theo, for example. You see the mistakes that they both made, and that kind of fits the feel of Champagne Problems to me. So the next track I would pair this book up with is Tolerate It, because again, because you see so many different aspects of these two, this couple's relationship, there is a level of the kind of neglectful, you know, partner in a relationship. I'm not going to say, you know, which part is it and like who neglects who, but you do see a little bit of that. And then the third track I would link to this book is Happiness. Happiness is one of my favorite songs, by the way, and I feel like Happiness is this book as a whole, because the song Happiness talks about seeing a past relationship that has ended in its entirety. When I'm above the trees, I see it for what it is, and that's basically what this book is. It's seeing the good and the bad, the mistakes that she's made, the mistakes that he's made, and appreciating the relationship even though it ended. And that's basically the end lyrics of Happiness, is like, I can't forgive you yet, but I know that my future self is able to give you that green light and forgive you. And yeah, I really like this book. If you haven't read it, I really recommend, because I love this book so much. All right, so the next track is Gold Rush. If you like Gold Rush, I recommend An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I think for whatever reason, I think it fits the whole cover vibe of Gold Rush, but also Gold Rush as a song deals with a person who is into another character who is very popular, very charming, very like loved by a lot of people, right? That's what the whole Gold Rush song is. She says, I don't like a gold rush, because gold rush is something that everyone wants to chase, and she doesn't like the fact that she's also into this thing that other people are trying to chase. This book is about a girl. It's a young adult book, so she's 17. She is a painter in this world. Now in this world, she's a human, but they live next to fairies. So the fairies in this book can't really do things that are creative. So for example, they can't cook, they can't draw, they can't paint, they can't play music, like none of those things they can really do. So they go to the human part of the world to kind of acquire those things. So like I said, the main character, Isabel, I think her name is, she is a painter. She is very known for being someone who paints portraits of the fairies, because that's the other thing with these fairies, is they're like really into themselves, and they, you know, love having portraits of themselves done, because they like to look at themselves, I guess. One day the king fairy, prince fairy of the Autumn Lands comes up to her and is like, hey, I was recommended to get my painting done with you by the king of the spring court or the summer court or something. The Autumn Prince is like someone who no one really ever sees. He doesn't like attention. He's kind of been in hiding. He's kind of aloof. He's kind of an aloof character. So she's like, okay, yeah, I'll do your painting, and then there's a little bit of a love story, which is really sweet, but I won't spoil anymore. But yeah, I just felt like this fit Gold Rush. The next track is "'Tis the Damn Season," and I picked "One Day" by David Nichols for this. Now, the reason I did that is because this song kind of talks about a character who has definitely moved on and is like living her own life. She comes back to her hometown and starts up a fling with her old flame, something along those lines, right? That's what the song is about, is like, I'm here just for the season. I want to remember what it was like because it was really good spending time with you, kind of thing. One Day, the reason I chose One Day is because it's about two best friends, Dex and Emma. They met during their graduation night from university, and they kind of had a little bit of a missed connection. So from then on, they kind of become best friends, but the story follows them every 5 years, I think, every 5 or 3 years, up until they are in their 30s or 40s, I think. And it's just kind of how their friendship blossoms into a romance, and how, you know, this whole fear that they both have about like wanting to be together, but like it's always a sort of missed connection. And yeah, I just feel like the song "'Tis the Damn Season" is about missed connection, so that's how I kind of link them together. Okay, so after Tolerated, we have Nobody No Crime. For this one, I could have gone with a couple of different thrillers that I had, but I decided to go with Verity by Colleen Hoover because the song is told from the perspective of a friend who sees that her friend is kind of, something's going on in her friend's relationship, and that's kind of like she suspects that the husband killed her. This isn't really Verity in that sense, but I think in terms of there being 3 characters in this book and how they sort of intertwine with each other, I think fits this. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but we follow, I forgot the character's name, I think her name is Rowan or something, but she is a writer, she's a ghost writer. She is asked to ghostwrite for a really famous author named Verity, who has this like book series that are out, but she can't finish it because she got into a little bit of an accident, and she can't write anymore, basically. So Verity's husband comes to her and he's like, listen, I know you're a really good ghostwriter. My wife Verity really likes your writing. I need you to ghostwrite her books for her, because, you know, her fans really want to know what happens in the book series, and, you know, like, you don't really need to do much work. You just need to read her notes. Like, she's almost done. You just need to, like, you know, write the last bits for her, basically. And so Rowan agrees. I think that's her name, I hope it is. But basically Rowan agrees, and the husband is like, I need you to live in our house though, because you know, that's where her office is, and that's, I can't, you know, take her stuff out of her office because spoilers for fans and all that stuff. So the main character decides, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll move into your house, and I'll write the book for Verity. When she gets there, something creepy is happening with Verity. Like the whole vibe of the house and the husband's relationship with Verity is really awkward and like weird. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say, because it's a thriller and it's really good. It's the only Colleen Hoover book I like. too. I know she writes a lot of romances, but I only like this one. The next track after Happiness is Dorothea. Now this one was a little bit hard for me just because I don't necessarily like Dorothea as a song, but I understand that it's supposed to be the male's perspective in 'Tis the Damn Season, and so I picked Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn, only because it's sort of about, the song is sort of about longing. It's sort of about like someone basically being like, oh, if you were with me, like we would be really good together. And I feel like that's kind of the relationship between Colleen and Penelope. I also picked it because of the Penelope aspect being who she is, who we uncover she is. I don't want to spoil anything just in case you don't know who Penelope Featherington is, but yeah, I thought I would pick that. I did do like a whole reading vlog, reading all the Bridgerton books, so if you're interested in that, I will leave the link to it down below. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention, but I will leave the link to my review of Verity down below as well. And then I think I also did a book review on An Enchantment of Ravens, so all the links to book reviews, if I've done them, I will leave down below. So the next track is Coney Island. Now this one was a bit of a tough one, but I decided to pick Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kamaguchi. The whole vibe, the whole premise of Coney Island is looking back at a relationship and again regretting certain actions that you've done, kind of reminiscing about it, kind of being slightly more nostalgic about it, and I felt like it kind of fit this book because even though this book isn't as sad, it's a lot more hopeful and inspiring. It does still have that introspective sort of feel to it. So if you don't know what this book is about, this book follows a bunch of different characters that all go into this coffee shop because there is a little bit of an urban legend to this coffee shop, in that if you sit and have a coffee here, you can either go back in time to a specific time that you want to meet whoever you want, or you can go forwards into the future. And so the characters that we read about try to go back in time for various different reasons. I don't want to say too much because I think it's a lot more fun for you to discover it yourself. The next song is another one of my favorites, and that's Ivy. I decided to choose We Were Liars by E. Lochart for Ivy. Not because there is an affair, which you can kind of tell is what the song is going for. I chose this because of the forbidden love aspect of it. Without going too much into it, we follow Cadence, who is the first granddaughter of this really upper class rich family who own this like private island and everything like that, and it's about the expectations that are put on her. That's all I'm gonna say. I've reread this book twice. I did a book review on it, so I will leave the link to it down below, but I just thought it was fitting because yeah, Ivy is kind of about a relationship that they have to sort of hide. Next track is Cowboy Like Me, another one of my favorites. I don't know why, but I really like this song. But I chose The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. Yeah, I don't know. I read this book and I just instantly was like, that is Cowboy Like Me. I think because Cowboy Like Me is kind of about two people that weren't planning to fall in love, but then they kind of end up falling in love with each other anyway by the end of the song. And that's kind of this book. That's kind of these two characters. So we follow Emma, who is a seamstress. She was tasked to make a wedding dress for the Duke's fiance, future wife, basically. But then in the beginning of the book, it turns out that the lady called the wedding off to the Duke for various reasons. And Emma is like, well, I've already made the dress and I haven't gotten paid, and your fiance or your ex-fiance won't return my letters. I need the money. And so she, you know, tries to go to the Duke being like, I need the money, can you please pay me, because I don't have enough money, basically, I'm just a seamstress. And the Duke is like, oh, yeah, I can give you the money, but also I actually need an heir, like really quickly, otherwise I will lose my estates. So let's make a deal, and I'll give you the money and you kind of have an arranged marriage with me. Because that happens. But yeah, I really like this book. I did a whole book review on it if you're interested, but I really enjoyed this one. This was really fun. And if you haven't read Tessa Dare and you're looking for, first of all, if you're looking to get into historical romance, I highly recommend this one to start with. This is what I started with. But also I think Tessa Dare is a good author to start with because she's really fun. Next up we have Long Story Short, and this is another book that I linked with multiple songs, and that book is Some Girls Are by Courtney Summers. This, I feel like Long Story Short as a song is a bit hard because it is a little bit too close to Taylor's like own experience of what we know of her experience anyway. But I kind of linked it because the song is sort of talking about this terrible time that the narrator has gone through and how it led her to this special person in her life. And I kind of related it to this book because this book kind of follows someone who's been having a kind of a rough time in high school, and it's not so much it's not a romance, so it's not so much the love aspect, and like she didn't technically like find the love of her life or anything like that, but I think she kind of grew from the bad experiences that she went through, kind of like in the song. And so that's how I sort of related it to the book. Oh, I thought I doubled up for this book, but I actually didn't. So I'll just give you a little bit of a synopsis. We follow Regina, who is this girl. She is sort of the part of a popular group in high school, and one day something happens to her in the beginning at a house party, and she can't tell anyone. She especially can't tell her best friend, who is like the most popular girl in their group, because the girl won't believe her, and she'll get mad at her basically. Even though this thing happened to her, she didn't do it on purpose. So then she didn't tell anyone except for this one other girl. When she goes back, so that was the weekend, when she goes back to school, a rumor has been spread about her, and she's been sort of like kicked out of the group basically. And I know it sounds really juvenile when I try and like explain to you the plot, but it's actually really good. I really like the different subject matters that Courtney Summers deals with in this book. I did do a book review, so go check that out if you want to hear more of my thoughts. But yeah, it's a really good book about female friendships in high school. That's all I'll say. The next track is Marjorie, and I decided to pick A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett because the song Marjorie is kind of talking about life lessons that Taylor Taylor's grandmother has taught her, and a lot of the life lessons that she mentions in the song, like never be so kind you forget to be clever, never be so clever you forget to be kind, those kind of things, I feel like are very similar to the lessons that we learn in A Little Princess, because A Little Princess is about a girl who deals with something really tough in her life, and she, you know, shows us that you need to be resilient in life, you need to be kind to everyone, and you just need to be hopeful. And I thought that that was kind of a perfect link for the song. The next song is Closure, and this was the song that originally I linked up with Some Girls Are as well, because you could technically link that up, but I decided to choose a different book that might fit slightly more accurately, I guess, and that book is In a Dark Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. This is another thriller, and we follow Leonora, who is kind of, she's sort of like by herself. She doesn't really have a big social group of friends or anything like that, and one day she gets an email from an old best friend that she once had in high school about 10 years ago, inviting her to a hen's night for this girl's wedding. And she's like, that's a bit weird, we haven't spoken in like ages, I don't know why I'm invited, but I guess I'll go. And the whole kind of story, you don't know much about her background, you don't know much about her relationship with this girl and what happened, and of course it's a thriller, so you kind of find out as you read. I really enjoyed this one. I do recommend this one because I think it's a really good book. The next track is another one of my favorites, and that's Evermore. I decided to link this track up with another Courtney Summers book, and that book is This Is Not a Test by Courtney Summers. This is a book that I'm surprised not a lot of people have read, or not a lot of people really talk about. I know a lot of people talk about Sadie and they really enjoyed Sadie, but I highly recommend you go back and read Courtney Summers' backlog of books, because she's got a lot of great ones. The song Evermore is obviously about someone who's going through a dark period in their life. Throughout the song, they are trying to find something to live for, something to motivate them to get up, and you know, they keep ruminating on this bad thing that happened to them, and they can't really get out of the house. They're having a bad time. And towards the end of the song, they find something to cling on to and be hopeful about. In this book, we follow Silaen. She is in high school. She has depression. She's been going through a lot. We don't really know much about what she's been going through in the beginning of the book, but all we know is that she has suicidal thoughts. Now, as she was going through a particularly dark day, she finds out that the world has broken out into this zombie apocalypse situation. And so the story is basically about her going through her depression and like not wanting to live, but also trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. It sounds really strange, but I think the way Courtney Summers talks about how the main character needs to find the motivation to live and within herself and everything like that, I thought it was really well done. So yeah, I did do a book review like ages ago, so I will leave a link to that down below. Alright, now we're on to the bonus tracks, which I actually think is one of my favorites. So the first song is Right Where You Left Me, and I decided to go with We Are the Ants by Shaun Hutchinson. Right Where You Left Me is about a narrator who has gone through something that is really traumatic to her. It's about her not being able to move on, but everyone else around her has sort of moved on and like didn't think much of it, and she, for whatever reason, can't seem to just get over it and forget what happened and move on. This book, we follow Henry, who is going through a lot. His boyfriend just passed away, and so he's going through a lot of grief with that in the beginning of the book. He has a pretty hard family life at home, and he's, you know, severely bullied at school as well. And on top of all of that, he keeps getting abducted by aliens in the middle of the night who tell him that he needs to press this red button to blow up the entire earth, basically. And he kind of has to make that decision, because every time the aliens abduct him, he doesn't make the decision, and then they take him back and then they abduct him again, you know, just casual. But yeah, I thought that this was interesting because it deals a lot with mental health and like grief and not being able to move on from a particularly hard thing that's happened to you. So yeah, I did do another book review on this, and I did a reading vlog as well, so I'll leave those two links down below, but I highly recommend this one. And the last track we have is It's Time to Go. So for this one, I decided to link the book All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. Even though I didn't really like this book, and I will leave my review of it down below, I still think it fits this song because I really like this song. I like how this song talks about knowing when a relationship, or knowing when a situation isn't favoring you anymore and it doesn't serve its purpose for you anymore, and being able to cut ties emotionally with the situation, and being like, you know what, it is better for me if I just leave this bad situation or whatever. And that definitely is what the main character of All Roads Lead Here does in the beginning of the book. She has a lot of things that we don't necessarily know when we start the book. She's got a lot of stuff that happened to her throughout her life. We don't really know that in the beginning, but we do slowly find out what's happened to her and why she decided to sort of run away from her life, basically. So I thought that that was really fitting for the song. Alright, so those were all the books that I wanted to recommend today. Please let me know if you have book recommendations that would fit the songs for me down below, because, you know, these are just books that I've read and I've linked to the songs. Obviously I haven't read every single book in the world, so if you have like similar recommendations that you think I would enjoy because of the books that I recommended, please leave them down below. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I will do more the more I read and the more I find links to the books that I read. But yeah, anyway, I hope you're having a great day. Cheers!